In other words, COVID was massively overdiagnosed. 86% were false positives. That means 14% were accurate diagnoses of COVID. It was massively overdiagnosed by this PCR test.
Spoiler alert, you know how they gave you PCR tests to see if you had COVID? Turns out almost 9 out of 10 of those tests that said you had COVID were fraudulent.
Oh man.
God. Of course.
Oh, wouldn't you know it?
So just let me just give you a little background before I drop it on you. This is Kary Mullis. Now, I've showed this guy on the show before. He's the inventor of the PCR test. That's the test used to declare a COVID pandemic. That's the test that they were using to say if you had COVID, and that's the test that they used to declare the COVID pandemic, the PCR test. Well, there's a big problem with that, and I'm going to show you. And he was Dr. Fauci's most notable critic. He coincidentally died 4 months before the COVID pandemic. They clearly shut him up before they released the bioweapon because he would have exposed it. And so, just to let you know, this guy won. He invented the PCR test, and he won a Nobel Prize for it. He died on August 7th, 2019, at the age of 74. So here, listen to what he had to say. So this guy's Nobel Prize winner, invented the test that the COVID pandemic was based on, died. Isn't it so convenient that for the establishment that he died 4 months before the start of the pandemic? But here he is talking about the PCR test and how it's not reliable and how it should not be used to diagnose. Watch.
What is it? What is it about humanity that wants to go to all the details and stuff and listen? You know, these guys like Fauci get up there and start talking. You know, he doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing. The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. He doesn't understand electron microscopy, and he doesn't understand medicine, and he should not be in a position like he's in. Most of those guys up there on the top are just total administrative people, and they don't know anything about what's going on the bottom. You know, those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way. They've got a personal kind of agenda. They make up their own rules as they go. They change them when they want to, and they smugly, like Tony Fauci, does not mind going on television in front of the people that pay his salary and lie directly into the camera. You can't expect the sheep to really respect the best and the brightest. They don't know the difference, really. I mean, I like humans. Don't get me wrong, but basically, the vast majority of them do not possess the ability to judge who is and who isn't a really good scientist. I mean, that's a problem. That's a main problem actually with science, I'd say, in this century, because science is being judged by people. Funding is being done by people who don't understand it. Okay, who do we trust? Fauci? Fauci doesn't know enough to, you know. If Fauci wants to get on television with somebody who knows a little bit about this stuff and debate him, he could easily do it because he's been asked. I mean, I've had a lot of people, president of the University of South Carolina, ask Fauci if he'd come down there and debate me on the stage in front of the student body, because I wanted somebody who was from the other side to come down there and balance my, because I felt like, well, these guys can listen to me, but I need to have somebody else down here that's going to tell me the other side. But Fauci didn't want to do it.
So there he is telling you how the actual game works. And now here's the result of that game. The result is you were lied to about COVID. You were lied to about the PCR test. You were lied to about the entire pandemic, not just the vaccines. Here, watch this. Here's Dr. John Campbell. There's a new study out of Germany, and watch what he found out.
You're most welcome to this talk. Now, today we're going to be looking at research from Germany that shows that between 86 and 90% of COVID tests using the PCR, polymerase chain reaction methods, were false positives. In other words, COVID was massively overdiagnosed. 86% were false positives. That means 14% were accurate diagnoses of COVID. It was massively overdiagnosed by this PCR test.
And if it wasn't massively overdiagnosed, if they didn't make this error, which a lot of people think was an intentional lie, which is what it more looks like, and these people are actual criminals, If they didn't have these bogus tests, they couldn't have declared a pandemic, because most people who they said had COVID actually didn't have COVID. So 86%, if you round up, that's 9 out of 10 people who the government told you had COVID didn't have COVID.
Oh.
Remember how they said the flu disappeared during COVID? Well, I bet they probably had flu, but there was incentives for doctors and hospitals to say you had COVID because they got paid. So that's why everybody got COVID, and we're going to use this PCR test. And even though the guy who invented it said you can find whatever you want. So there's more to this.
The paper that I'm going to be giving evidence for that here. It's actually quite an intelligible paper. You can see it there. It's all in the public domain for yourself. Now, just think about the implications of this.
Yeah.
It looked like there was 7 or 8 times more COVID than there actually was, causing infections as judged by this PCR test.
He says there looks like they were overdiagnosing it, saying that there were 7 to 8 times more COVID infections than there actually was. So 7 to 8 times, that means they overestimated, or they were telling us that they were off by how many people actually had COVID by 800%. That's what 8 times means. 800% they were off. They weren't off a little. So he's got more to say.
And I've got a few notes here, actually. I'll just show you them very briefly of how far out things were. Now, this was the Lancet, very prestigious medical journal.
Prestigious, the Lancet. Let's see if the Lancet was close to an accurate number of how many people actually had COVID during COVID. Let's see. What did the Lancet say?
Not making it up. Check it out for yourself there. So that is the Lancet, the information that gave. And what that actually said, the Lancet said the specificity is greater than 95%. In other words, this is saying that 5% were, at most, 5% were false positives, whereas this current data is showing that 86% to 90%.
So the Lancet was saying, yes, there will be some false positives with the PCR test, but only 5%, when the actual number was 86 to 90%. They said 5. How can the Lancet be that off accidentally? It seems to me that they weren't that off accidentally, just like we found out during COVID, that our medical journals, like our medical schools and our medical establishments and our medical boards, are all corrupted by big pharma money.
But Jimmy, lots of mafias cook the books accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally.
The other mafias have incompetence, and they cook the books by mistake.
So the Lancet said only 5% of the diagnoses of COVID were probably false positives. But the actual number is 86 to 90% were false, which means there wasn't a pandemic.
So I only got COVID because I got my vaccine.
Yeah. Yep.
Are false positives. A bit of a difference. Given that these figures are probably correct, how did the Lancet get it so wrong? Is a question. The UK government, let me show you their site there. This is the UK government site where they talk about impact of false positives. And what are they saying? Well, the figures that they gave, this is 2020. The UK government are saying, there we go, 2.3% of false positives. So the Lancet at most 5%, not 86 to 90. So the UK government figure was 2.3% false positives. The actual figure seems to be 86%. And the hallowed New England Journal of Medicine, again, this is the reference here. Don't take my word for it. They said, what did they say? 1.7% were false positives.
So the New England Journal of Medicine said there was only 1.7% false positives.
They're only off by
they're only off by like 90%.
It's like, I mean, that's a big factor to be off by.
So
really
now
off.
you know why. Now you know why, as I just elucidated with Dr. Aaron Kheriaty, that 70% of Americans now they doubt that the medical industry has their best interests. 70% of Americans.
Their first clue?
70%
$3,000 copay.
70% of Americans doubt that the medical system in America has their best interests, and now you know why. Because they were lied to at unbelievably extraordinary levels. Because if you think this was this wasn't an oopsie. This was not a mistake.
Good people doing their best, making the same mistake since the 80s.
You know, this at best was manslaughter. It sounds like it could be considered attempted murder. And in many cases, just plain murder.
It almost reminds you of a kind of World War II thing of when you hear of atrocities done by science, by supposed doctors on children. It almost reminds you of that. And then you remember we saved all those Nazis and brought them here, and we still have the same pharmaceutical companies that work for the Nazis. So, of course, it's going to continue.
You know, the guy who's considered the father of vaccines is under oath on video admitting that they tested vaccines on the mentally handicapped.
Well, can we at least see the tests, or are those also top secret?
So there's more to this.
If this German study is right, if this study is correct, this one, and it's looking pretty good, I'm going to show you the details of it because I'm convinced by it. That's why I'm telling you about it. That means the Lancet was hopelessly wrong. Hopelessly wrong. That means the British government was hopelessly wrong. And that means the New England Journal of Medicine was hopelessly wrong. If this German study is accurate. So let's have a look at it and see what we think. So
we don't have to go into the minutia of it. He goes in, he does a great, always, Dr. John Campbell, he's able to explain it in a way that everybody understands it. But that's the main part you need to know.
Yeah.
That's the main part. You get now you know the rest of the story.
Get ready for more of those to come out, stories like that, because now enough time has passed that they can tell you openly what they did, and you'll go, "Who's even talking about
nobody?"
that?
Yeah, no, the COVID's over.
I've moved on.
Why do you care? Why do you care?
Come on. Republicans are going to lose the midterms, Jimmy.
Yeah, if you keep talking about Trump's Operation Warp Speed, they're good. Democrats are.
Midterms. How will we get more of the same thing that's disappointing me over and over and over again if you ruin it with in the midterms?
Again, I can't believe how few people in this space are going to cover this story. I'm going to guess mostly none of them. And so this is a big lane for me. Your independent media sucks. They suck.
Well, you are responsible if you're not reporting on it, and you were all in on putting that shit in people's kids. You're kind of responsible. I would think you'd want to be like upset and contrite. You would think.
But
probably you want to cover it up like you were Fauci, like Fauci in the 80s with the AIDS medicine.
Right.
That was poison, it turned out.
And AIDS also invented in a lab, according to the FDA chairman, Marty McCarry.
A bunch of BLM, I can think of 10 off the top of my head, back in New York, dingbat shit libs who love BLM. And if you try to explain to me that Fauci experimented with that AZT on
orphan black kids,
brown kids,
yes,
who they didn't even test to see if they had HIV.
Yep.
They just forced that on them and then put them in a mass grave in Yonkers. Well, they never heard of it, and they don't want to talk. They don't want to talk about it. Yeah, they'll go. What about Marjorie Taylor Greene? Some dumb shit.
Yep. Anyway, so if you'd like to hear my jokes about this, you should come see me in Waikiki on January 11th. It's a Sunday. Go to Hawaii for a vacation. I'll see you there. It's a great show, great place, Blue Note. And then on January 30th, I'll see you in Los Angeles at the Comedy Store. There's only 70 tickets going fast. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. And only jimmydore.com, because you go somewhere else, you're going to pay more money. Hey, come see me on tour January 11th in Waikiki, Hawaii, and January 30th in Los Angeles at the Comedy Store. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.